I've shared my story before, but today I want to focus on the critical aspects of my experience and interactions with family court and Kafkas. My hope is that by shedding light on these issues, we can bring about real change to protect children's lives. At that hearing, the judge ordered a Section 7 report acknowledging the presence of domestic abuse, yet she still allowed unsupervised contact while the report was being prepared. He was to see them for 5 hours at weekends alone. I had to be escorted out of the courtroom by Kafkas for my own safety. What followed was the nightmare. The post-separation abuse escalated. He slashed the tyres on my car. He ignored court orders, picking the boys up early and dropping them off late, leaving them in a constant state of fear. My sister was dying of cancer, and he harassed her with vile text messages, and he constantly sent me horrendous messages. The police told me that there was nothing they could do because in their eyes, what he was doing was legal. I felt literally powerless throughout this torment. I would contact my solicitor and be met with the same question: have Kafkas been in touch? But Kafkas failed to take action. The Section 7 report was never even started. When my son's father had a meeting with the Kafkas officer, I warned her to be vigilant, knowing his capacity for aggression. Unfortunately, she dismissed my concerns and met with him alone. During that meeting, he turned threatening and she barricaded herself in the office. In her notes, she requested senior representation for her safety if she met with him again. Such was her concern. However, she did not question the safety of my sons. At this point, having witnessed his alarming behaviour, this Kafkas officer could have overridden the court order. She could have, but she didn't. She spoke to me over the phone to tell me to watch them when they came back from contact, but that it should still go ahead. In the serious case review that followed, it concluded that contact should not have been suspended and only that it should have been considered. Kafkas never suspended contact. They hadn't even begun the report. Kafkas were also dishonest about that phone call that was made to me. The Kafkas officer said it never took place, but I showed the police the call on my log. We really need to look at whether a courtroom is the right place to discuss the futures of children. It's time that victims were believed and supported, and the children have the childhoods they deserve.
I'd grown up around a lot of addicts. I was always around addicts when I was a child. Growing up, the relationships I got into were with abusive men that didn't really value me, and I didn't really have a lot of self-worth or self-esteem. By the time I was 27, I had 4 children of my own. I'd got away from a very violent ex-partner to a safe house. There were these neighbours that were really nice to me. They were men in their 40s. Even my sister used to come and visit us. Unknown to me, they were on the police's radar as sex offenders. The police thought that there was more to it and that I was coercing these girls into relationships with these men. So I was arrested for facilitating and organising a child sex offence. And then my children were then put into care. When I was trying to prove my innocence, I had to do psychological assessments. I passed the parenting assessment in flying colours, but the psychological assessment came back and said that there was a lot of emotional issues and childhood trauma. And then after that, it was just a complete nightmare. So it took 2 years for my children to be adopted. I got into debt. I spent everything I had. I was told by judges that I was doing everything I could in trying to appeal, but the social workers told me that my children were very happy and content and that I could just have more children. But I was judged for my past. I was judged for having adverse childhood trauma, which I feel that it's been now imposed onto my own children. I think people need that help. People, they need that support.
I said I'd give my story or experience about growing up in care. I used to live with my mum and my 2 brothers. I had one older brother and one younger brother who I was really close to. My mum looked after us really well, so they let us see her every other day in contact centres. But they weaned us off her. And what was so awful was in the first placement they wouldn't let me go with my brothers. They said I'd mother them too much and they didn't want that, but they didn't understand that they were the reason that made me want to carry on, because I didn't. I was 6 years old and my heart was broken. I was so terrified and I just couldn't sleep properly. You know when you get them things in front of your eyes, them little floaters? Well, I had those and I used to think it was my mum sending me kisses. And what was so awful was that I was still at school. Our house was right down the road. Mum was right down the road. So me and my brothers used to escape. We used to run down. One time my little brother got all the way to the outside of our house where the lamppost was until they caught him. Social workers are funny. You know, I know it's a hard job and all. Some are good, some aren't. Some care, some don't. I just think if my mum got more support, would be in this situation. I just really hope that there is more support for families to help them.
I understood that in April 2020 there was a change in the law for abusive, coercive, controlling behaviour is extended to post-separation abuse, but every single police officer that I've come into contact with has no knowledge, doesn't know anything about that. You know, my ex, he broke his previous non-molestation order and nothing was done about it. And the judge didn't want to give him another one because she was afraid that he would be arrested and break it again, which I just think is a disgrace. So we do need change and we do need it now, you know, and I'm happy for my case to be raised in Parliament. I'm happy to speak out about this. I'm not going to stay silent anymore. I mean, the family courts are pro-contact at all costs. There is no accountability for the judges, and they know that. And they're abusing their powers and they are causing severe harm to survivors and to children. There is little to no education done on trauma and domestic abuse. And I think that we really should be raising the question now, is it time that we had dedicated courts with domestic abuse experts and trauma experts leading them?